All right, main man, Ian Scotto.
This is such a weird intro, Al. It's just it's like you walking over.
I know.
We need to have like an actual intro.
It's like I enter stage left.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this. I'm not
you can look at you,
right?
can look at me, or you can look at the camera. If you want to speak directly to the audience, you go straight into the camera.
Yeah. Like Bill O'Reilly during like talking points.
Okay, we'll do it live.
Yeah. As I said to the people wondering on Twitter and Facebook who saw this, I genuinely have no idea what we're even getting into. When Jack asked me if I wanted to come by, I haven't seen Jack in over 3 months, so I was like, hell yeah.
Shit, really? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the last show I did was late May, and then I went to Sedona, Arizona, which was a great time, and yes, it's been quite a while.
Yeah, man, it has. I mean, I was in Italy over the summer for a lot of the time, and you were cruising around doing your thing.
Yeah.
And so,
which is not, I wasn't doing anything else full time, but I kind of had the summer off, which was really cool, and now I'm kind of figuring out exactly what I'm doing now at this point.
Kate Hyde is liking our tweets right now.
Kate Hyde is awesome. What's going on? I think she's also going to be live streaming the debate, which, by the way, I'm really, I'm wondering what Andrew Yang is going to do, because I don't know if you've been following.
I did see that article in Politico where it's like, I'm going to be a star.
Yeah, and someone talking to the media said that Andrew Yang is going to do something no presidential candidate has ever done during a debate. And he's like, I'm going to leave it at that. And then Andrew Yang posted things up where he said, technically there's no dress code for the debate. And then he wrote another tweet that he said 2 words for the debate: gold chain. So I just want to see what he does.
You know, like a friend of mine was saying, he's like, Yang is trumping the DNC right now.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to say he's a troll. He's a smart guy and he has policies, but like he's like actively like mocking the debates. He's like, this is stupid. This is a 3-ring circus.
Yeah.
And everyone knows he's right.
I think also he knows that he's getting, I think him, Tulsi Gabbard, probably other candidates too, are getting that classic Ron Paul treatment where they're moving up in the polls, but no one is, giving them the coverage that they deserve.
Exactly.
So I think his attitude is like, what could I do that's completely outrageous that'll get me attention? Because unfortunately in this day and age, that's what gets you attention. It's not policy ideas. And I'm by no means an Andrew Yang fan, but I am a fan of, no matter who's running for president, having giving them some type of equal time and equal coverage, and that's not what happens now.
Yeah, they like make a deliberate effort to sideline him because they don't like him for whatever reason. Because he's not Elizabeth Warren. Yeah,
they've already decided it's her, Bernie, Kamala Harris. So they're like, those are the Pete Buttigieg. Those are the people.
It's like MSN, CNN, all of them. Like they have decided these are the acceptable candidates.
Yeah.
These are the not acceptable candidates.
I remember I wrote a tweet about it because someone was tweeting about Yang getting the Ron Paul treatment. I remember the final debate of 2008 in the Republican primary. It was down to 4 candidates. It was down to John McCain, Mitt Romney, Mike Huckabee, and Ron Paul. And both Huckabee and Ron Paul, they ignored them. 90% of the questions for those were for those other 2 guys. And I just hate that. I don't think it's the media's job to decide, as you said, who's an acceptable candidate.
Right.
And Trump was the antithesis of that. The media ended up covering him because he gets ratings, but as much as they didn't want him to win, he blew past what they thought was acceptable.
You're seeing it again right now. I'm sure you saw it with Dave Chappelle's special on Rotten Tomatoes, getting rated. The reviewers rated it at what?
I think 90 something. Yeah.
No. The reviewers, the critics.
Oh, the actual critics. They 0.
They rated it 3% or something like that. But the actual viewers voted it at 99%.
Yeah.
So there's this huge disparity between what we're told we're allowed to like versus what people actually want.
Did you watch it?
I watched the tail end of it. I saw the tail end of that, and I saw most of the Bill Burr one as well.
I have to see the Bill Burr one.
They both seem funny. I like to sit down and watch the entire Chappelle one because what I saw of it was very funny. It's very good.
You saw the part about the, as he calls them, the letter people driving in a car? Because that was the most, okay. That was the most controversial part,
Really?
I would say, of it. Yeah, because he refers to the LGBTQ community as the letter people, and he's like, you have the G driving the car, and like the T is in the back seat, and he wants to take all these stops to go to the bathroom, and they're trying to forge ahead, and he's fucking up the whole deal. Yeah, it's really good. I obviously can't tell it as well as Dave Chappelle.
But I mean, I'm one of those crazy people. Like, I think it's okay to laugh at that stuff. Like, it doesn't mean I don't like LGBT people, but I mean, like, Dave tells white jokes, he tells black jokes, and like, we laugh at them.
Yeah.
Like Cat Williams said, like, I think it was Cat Williams. He's like, there's a reason to be concerned when a guy comes to my show and he laughs at all the black jokes, but he doesn't laugh at the white jokes.
Yeah.
Like, then you kind of wonder what's up. But I mean, they're comedians, man. They poke fun at all of us. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, they're supposed to be able to. I mean, that's why I've always liked South Park, is they were absolutely fearless.
Oh, yeah, nothing was sacred.
Yeah, I remember it was like weeks after the whole Charlie Hebdo thing, they did a whole thing mocking Muhammad, and it got to the point that Comedy Central censored them. They were like, we don't want to see our creators get beheaded in the streets.
I remember the one with the Scientology episode was very controversial.
And that's why Isaac Hayes left the show. Mm-hmm. Shortly after it died, which started a whole conspiracy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
You could look online. There's a whole conspiracy theory that he was murdered by the Church of Scientology.
Oh, Jesus.
Because it was really shortly after that.
So creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But anyway, those who are watching live, as me and Ian meander through life and through entertainment, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on finding the weird part of the internet. Two bros down the dungeon talking about stuff. I did have a few things I wanted to bring up, a few little announcements. First off, we hit 1,000 subscribers.
That's awesome.
We're at actually 1,040 subscribers, which is cool because we're a small channel, small little setup here. This is only episode 6, so it's just really cool to see that there's the interest and that people are tuning in and watching. So thank you everyone who did that. And if this is your first time watching, please hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon so you get notifications the next time we go live. And otherwise, thanks for being here.
And from what I've seen, it's been completely organic. I mean, you haven't paid for any promotion yet. This is just your following who wants to see it.
Yeah, man. It's just, people who like what you and I were doing and want to see more of it. And the next project, you guys can't see because I try to keep it a little sterilized, so you can't see our mess behind the scenes. But I have all this gear here. I have a switcher and stuff, and I have this new laptop I bought, and the whole next project is to rig it up so that people can dial in on Skype and it gets ported right into the streaming software. So it'll look really professional. It'll look like network news, basically.
That's going to be awesome.
When you have, right now it's a side-by-side camera, me and you. It'll be me or whoever's doing the interview and the person on Skype. And it'll look really, really good.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I'm stoked. I mean, and I have a whole bunch of guests lined up, people ready to come.
I've already said people want Jim West.
Of course, people
coming here.
I had lunch with Jim last week, and I forgot to ask him, but I'll get him in here. He'd be down for it. You're actually our first in studio guest.
That's awesome. Yeah, because Dave is tactically the co-host.
Dave is going to co-host. Yeah, Dave wanted to be here, but he is actually out viewing apartments right now.
Cool.
So he'll be back next time.
Yeah, I met Dave at your birthday a few years back.
Yeah.
And he's a former Ranger, or
correct?
Okay.
Dave, he was an Army Ranger, Navy diver, and he was also a Marine for a year.
Wow.
So yeah, he ran the gamut.
That's quite a resume.
Yeah. And then he was a contractor afterwards, and then he got into improv, acting, all sorts of stuff. So I mean, Dave has lots of interesting stories.
Yeah, he's not, just from meeting him, he's not like your typical vet. He's got his own kind of deal going on.
Yeah, for sure, man. I was talking to him about it the other day, and he was saying, he had a great job working as a security contractor, but he was like, I didn't want that to be my whole life,
I get it. I talked to Kris Paranto recently. He's been doing it forever. I mean, Kris is an older guy at this point, and he's like, I'm done with that. Doing these speaking engagements. We're possibly working on something, but he does his course instruction as training for firearms. But he said like, and he's been doing it up until relatively recently, much like, Dale Comstock and stuff. Although I'm talking, Dale on more controversial ops, as we know. But, yeah, he's like, I'm done with that life. I understand it. At that age, it's pretty crazy.
You have a family, a lot of time away from home. No, I get it. How's Kris doing?
Great. He's doing these speaking engagements all over the place. So the last time I saw him, he was in Atlantic City, and he had like the day off. So I drove to Atlantic City, saw him, and he's, getting like a good amount to travel all over the country doing these speaking engagements and also doing the firearms instruction with Battle Line Tactical. So
cool. Good for him, man.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And you might have a project going with him?
Yeah, it looks like I may be doing a podcast. I think I am doing a podcast with him, and he's talked about it. And then I've also been working on something with Sean Parnell. I think Sean's project is going to be more just him as the focal point, me as a behind-the-scenes guy, booking people, engineering it. I could tell he likes to be like the main guy, which is cool. We kind of discussed, and we've recorded some things, so I think that should be going up soon. I think I'm allowed to say that right now. I mean, he's mentioned me in tweets, and the podcast has been mentioned, so yeah, we're working on something. So I think like later this month you'll see something.
Okay, great, man. So that's cool. So that's 2 projects in the bag.
Yeah.
And you're welcome here anytime.
Hell yeah, man. And then we might do something. Who knows, man?
Absolutely.
We're both like kind of figuring out what we're doing right now.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like feeling the way through it. I mean, this whole thing is a work in progress, and I was very happy that you and I, we stepped away from the company we worked for previously. You stepped away like maybe how long ago?
I think a month before you.
Like
did.
A month before me.
Yeah, late May.
And I left in July.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was very happy actually that I had this thing up and running like the week after, so that's cool. But at the same time, it's like, you're putting it all together on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could say this, right? You technically had it up to do your gaming stuff, though, prior, so.
I had a lot of it up and working. And, we have the studio, and, we're just working on improving it as much as we can. And we'll use it for a number of things. I mean, even if people want to come in here and rent the place when I'm not around,
cool.
Have at it,
Yeah.
But yeah, right now that's kind of the focus, just making it as good a show as we possibly can, getting the best guests on that we can.
Yeah, I think everybody that, you and I have talked to, and then also the people that you exclusively have done interviews with, you have a good relation with, and they probably, will have to come on, so.
Yeah, man, I think the first round of people is going to be, people that listeners and viewers have requested, so like Jim West, BK.
Yeah.
Who's
Jason, aka James Powell.
Oh yeah. James Powell. I can get him down here one day
because he's in Philly area.
Yeah. So we take the train in or something, or when he comes into the city for something else, and we'll get him in here. I can probably cajole him and his wife into coming and spending a weekend in the city and do it. The good name, just stay with me. Really, really nice people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a great guy.
So after you left in June, what happened? You said you were out in Sedona?
Yeah, that was just for a few days. I went hiking in Sedona with my friend George and George, 2 different Georges I went to high school with. I've been taking this certification course to be a personal trainer, which I'll let people know. It's an extremely hard, it's way harder than I thought. I was like, what am I getting myself into? And I need to retake this test that I did not pass by 2 points in order to be a trainer.
Really?
So I have to do that. But I will do it. I'm very determined to do that.
999?
Oh. It is definitely more than that. It's a lot of textbook stuff and anatomy and physiology and, mechanics. So yeah, I'm getting all of that done. And then working with Kris and Sean. I also went to Arizona again to see, for that one of my other friends, same guy, George, his wedding. And I posted a picture, some of you guys may have seen if you follow me.
I did. He was fancy.
Yeah, but so the crazy thing is, it's a picture of 6 of my best friends from high school that we were all there for my friend George and Heather's wedding. And on 9/11 yesterday, we were texting about, just reflecting on it. And the crazy thing is, all of us, we're great friends to this day, were in the same classroom when 9/11 happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we remember everything about it. We went to Manhasset High School, and and it's like a tower. We were at the highest point of that tower in a classroom, and we saw the
You
smoke.
could see the smoke.
Yeah, some woman interrupted the class and told us what was going on. And when the first plane hit, and everyone's reaction, I don't know if it was the same for you, was this confusion of like, was the pilot drunk? What the hell is going on?
I mean, I think a lot of people, their first impression of it was like, it must have been some sort of accident.
Yeah.
You know, like there were airplanes that, back in like the 40s, I think, an airplane flew into the Empire State Building. Actually, I think it was a fighter pilot actually. And it was because it was like a foggy day or something, you know?
Yeah, the initial reaction was not
Like
terrorism.
we're under attack.
Yeah, and then the second plane
And
hit.
they were like, oh shit.
Yeah. And also being at that time, I think like 15 years old, you don't, know how to react to it. It's just confusing. We never experienced anything like that. So, but yeah, it's just crazy that I experienced that moment with these guys that I still talk to literally every day. We text each other every day, so.
Yeah, man. I mean, maybe you get into that for a minute. But some people said they want me to get the Odyssean on the show.
I love T.O. The only thing about him I will say is once you get him talking,
You won't shut up.
It has to be like a 9-hour show.
You just gotta dial him in a little bit, but he has a lot of interesting stuff to say.
Yeah.
I will get him on once I have that remote Skype thing I was talking about earlier. Once I get that up and running, I'll have him on.
I mean, sometimes the audience likes the long form stuff. I was pretty shocked. So talking to Sean Parnell lately, he just did Jocko Willink's podcast, and it was a 5-hour podcast. It's the longest show he's ever done.
Jesus.
And if you go on both of their Twitters, it's getting like this great reaction. But to me, I'm like, 5 hours sounds insane to me. When we would do a 2-hour interview,
It's long.
I feel like it's long. To me, 5 hours is like beyond pushing it, but people like it.
If the content is there, and I hate using that word content, it's overplayed, but you get what I'm saying. If it's an interesting conversation, I feel like, Dan Carlin, the guy who does hardcore history, I could listen to 5 hours of that guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, he has his shit together and he has all his facts and he is walking you through this like powerful, sweeping history of whatever topic he's talking about. World War I is just fascinating to listen to. But if me and you were to sit here and talk for 5 hours, I don't feel it would quite have the same gusto, the same moxie
but
as that would.
If you look at like when you and I interviewed Mike Vining and we did that in 2 parts, altogether there was probably 4 hours or so, parts 1 and 2.
3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah, and I didn't think we probably had more to go.
Yes.
But I'd probably rather leave the audience wanting more than being like, all right, oversaturated.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with like the natural flow of the conversation. Sometimes you get everything you need in half an hour and sometimes it's longer, so.
Yeah, we experienced that. I mean, we did podcasts that were like 2.5 hours. But
Yeah.
then we did others that were like 45 minutes and we're like, okay, kill it.
And it's not because it was bad, it was just like we discussed everything we needed to.
Yeah, we said what we had to say.
Yeah.
It's like writing a book, writing a novel. Like the first novel I wrote, I tried to pack everything into it. And then as you mature as a writer, you realize like, no, you get in there, you say what you have to say for this book, and then you get out. you don't need to write a tome. It doesn't have to be a treatise that's like this thick.
Your first Deckard novel is like...
It was like 120,000 words. And then after that, I parsed it down. They're more like, 90,000.
Okay.
They're more reasonable.
No, I mean, that's not that much longer, but it's
like 350 versus 400 some odd pages.
Gotcha.
It's just a matter of what you're writing about. And you realize, you don't have to toss everything into one book.
Especially with you. I mean, I do see you get comments of people who want to, it would be fifth book in the series.
My 5th one, that I'm working on.
Yeah, so if people demand it.
Same thing with the memoir. Like, I was very hesitant about that because I felt like, not everyone wants to read, 50 pages about my childhood. And then another 50 pages about how I went to Ranger School and, basic training. But then there are other people out there who actually do want to hear that kind of stuff. So,
which is not what you did, though. Childhood and all that early adulthood prior to the...
That's like 10, 15 pages.
Exactly. You get right into it.
Yeah, I get right into it. Oh, and on that note, my book, my memoir, Murphy's Law, I will be at the Army-Navy Club in Washington, D.C. on the 30th to present the book. So if you come and check it out, I'll be there. It sounds really, really cool. They told me, you get there early. There's like daiquiris beforehand. And,
Nice.
you will get to see me wearing a suit and tie instead of, a t-shirt like I am every other day.
I think I haven't seen you in a suit and tie since your wedding.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a nice event.
Awesome.
And thank you, Dan, who helped set that all up. That was really cool.
Oh, yeah. By the way, since you have a computer in front of you, let me know if there's any interesting comments. I don't know who's checking this out, any interesting questions.
No, people are happy to see you.
That's cool.
A lot of people who watch Twitch streamers play World of Warcraft for 6+ hours. That's true.
That's so weird to me, man. Watching people play video games for that long, can't be healthy.
It is interesting. It's like it activates something in people's brains. I think there's also an aspect of some of it, like, it's like, my stepfather would watch golf on the weekends, and I could never understand why. It's like, this is the most boring thing ever.
I like watching golf.
But I think, like, as I get older now, and like I can watch, like a YouTube video of like people playing Dungeons and Dragons, which, like, it's why?
You're into that, though. That's your...
But the same thing with like golf, it's, it's like relaxing. You just sit there and watch it, and there's no drama, really. There's no...
Sure. I mean, at least for me, watching Tiger Woods play golf in a whole other league,
or somebody
watching you play Dungeons.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. I get that, but it's or watching somebody play a video game, I think could have the same sort of effect. That it's like something like you can sit down, lay down in your bed with your laptop open, and just kind of watch it until you fall asleep.
Yeah.
But I think it's also interesting that there's this. Now, like, we're moving back towards long-form entertainment again.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Joe Rogan, for instance, or you brought up Jocko Willink doing a 5-hour podcast with Sean Parnell. Like, a few years ago, we never would have seen that.
Yeah.
Now people are willing to sit down and watch 4 or 5 hours, that kind of like long-form, in-depth kind of conversation. And I really appreciate that. And I hope that, although I don't think we're going to do 5 hours on here, I do hope that we can do something like that as far as having like in-depth, meaningful conversations that go on for, an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's more people our age and older, because I still think young people, they are totally into the Instagram culture of, 15-second videos and, short attention span.
I don't know, man. I think that, even younger people are going to get burned out on it probably even faster than we will.
Yeah, I hope so.
But anyway, I did also, my suggestion to you when you left our previous job was to become a male prostitute.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you pursued that at all?
I can't say I have.
I mean, you've been working out, and you remember I told you the story about
your friend
who's the personal trainer. He worked with this guy who was a personal trainer, and he was the personal trainer for a gigolo on the Upper East Side.
It's insane, dude.
And I mean, you're becoming a personal trainer now, so like
I'm working.
I feel like you're getting closer to the lifestyle.
I don't know about that. I think I'm going to stick with voiceover podcasts and training some people as well, hopefully. So.
No, but as far as like comments, people are happy to see you. And if you guys have any questions
let us know.
Ian Scotto, your main man, he is here in person right now. This is a big moment.
Well, we'll answer whatever. I mean, there's certain stuff we probably can't answer in depth, but I'm down to answer.
Oh, somebody said, Jack Murphy, did I hear you correctly? Did you leave SoftRep? Yes. I left the previous company I worked for, it was SoftRep, NewsRep. It was
Crate Club before we left.
It was Force 12 Media, and then Hurricane, and then Crate Club, or whatever you want to call it. That company I left in July, and Ian left a few months before I did. Yeah. So we both left there, and we're pursuing different endeavors now.
This is correct.
Yeah.
There's a few things, as I said, I wrote down on my phone that we didn't get to cover, or at least I didn't get to cover with you before we left. I was saying David Bellavia, latest Medal of Honor recipient. He would have been cool to have on. And then another big thing is all the Jeffrey Epstein stuff that came out. Did you get to talk about it in depth after I left? Because you've been writing about it for, I'd say, 2 or 3 years at this point.
Well, that I mean, me and Dave talked about it on the live stream the other day, and I brought up the article I wrote about it, where I tried to put the puzzle pieces together and be like, hey man, there's like maybe intelligence services involved in all of this.
That's about 3 years ago, right?
It was 2015.
Wow, yeah.
And, I wrote that article, and people kind of scoffed and laughed at me, and here we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing is just beyond bizarre.
It really is, and it really is hard to separate what's conspiracy theory and what's not.
Well, I mean, a lot of it is very, very real, but unfortunately, like the QAnon people jump in there, and what the conspiracy theorists do is they muddy the water so much that you'll never really find out what the truth is. Because like, if somebody like me, who at least I try to be a little bit more sober, right, and I start talking about Jeffrey Epstein, the whole world will be like, oh, Jack, you're a conspiracy theorist, and they laugh it off because there's all these other crazy people out there talking about, how Hillary is a lizard man and coming from dimension.
But I've seen so many weird things in recent days, and I'm trying to fact check what's real and what's not. I don't know if you saw this. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein had a painting of Bill Clinton in a blue dress.
That's true.
And so someone else posted up that he had a painting of George Bush throwing a paper plane into Jenga towers of the Twin Towers.
That I did not know.
So I tried to fact check this, and from what I Googled, it was done by the same artist. It is a real painting. It was done by the same artist who did Bill Clinton in the blue dress. I don't know if it's confirmed that he owned that actual painting.
The one of George Bush.
Yeah, the one of George Bush.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a really weird painting.
The one of Bill is for real. That really was in his home.
And what? It's like if he was a friend of Bill Clinton, why would you put that?
Friend in air quotes. And it was like in the foyer of his huge mansion on the Upper East Side. I mean, I think it's a message. It's like everyone who walks into that home, he's saying, I got Bill Clinton by the balls. That's my interpretation of it. I'm no art critic, people, but hey, that's what I think he was saying with it.
Sounds right.
Yeah, man. Does Ian want to elaborate on his leaving? You guys have always been very polite about it, but it sure seems like there was some underhanded stuff going on against both of you.
Yeah, I don't think there's like that much to say, because I really am still on good terms with everybody. There's no one like that I left having anger towards. I didn't totally agree with the direction of where things were going. I also wanted to pursue some different things. That's really it, though. It's not like I left on really bad terms with anybody. That's the truth. So
yeah. I mean, maybe that's the best way to put it, is that the company was going in one direction or in many different directions, all at the same time, and it just gets to the point where it's like, what's my role here? What do I do?
Yeah.
Where do I fit into this?
I agree. And I also don't see, at least for me, any point in putting anything negative out there. I don't want to be known as a guy who says like negative things about former employers, because it was also a great opportunity for me. I mean, at the time, before I met Brandon, I was working behind the scenes on Wilcow. Around the same time that I got hired, I became Senator Bill Bradley's producer, and it was not only a whole other income stream for me, which, slowly at first. It wasn't like I was making a whole lot at first, but it was a huge opportunity. Like, these people who follow me on here, the people commenting on this, who I greatly appreciate, 90% of those people would not know who I was if it wasn't for what we were doing. So, like, I'm very appreciative of what we did. And you've said it before too, like I really, I look upon, all the interviews that we did really greatly. Like, people could listen back to those.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of the work that we did, so.
Yeah, so am I. I'm really proud that as far as our podcast that we did for many years, that we gave a platform to like so many great people, so many amazing voices, and got them out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about, like where are our heroes today? Where are all the good guys? Or, how come, everyone worships these basketball stars and Hollywood celebrities? What about the troops in this? Like, we kind of like, beyond the superficiality of like support the troops, we kind of like actually brought the troops into the studio and put them on mic and got like very human stories. about combat and about life and everything else.
And I loved the fact that we truly had no agenda. Like in today's world where the whole like fake news term, I do get it to some extent, because like you turn on CNN, there's a queer agenda. You turn on Fox News, there's a queer agenda of most of those people. We were open to bringing on anyone.
Yep.
And when we had on someone that other people opposed, we'd have an opposing voice on. I'm trying to think off the top of my head about...
like Bergdahl.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. What's the name of the...
Your friend...
No, Matt Bierkamp was one of the guys who was stationed there, but the author of the book...
Oh, one of them is Matt Farwell, but the guy we had in studio...
I can't remember off the top of my head, you can look it up, but yeah, what he said was extremely controversial, and he did his research, right?
Michael Ames.
Yeah, Michael Ames. I could see why he wasn't getting booked on Fox News, because it shoots down a whole narrative of what was fed to us for years. And we were open to having anyone on, whether we agreed with their opinion or not. I thought he was very convincing, but, like Matt Bierkamp, for example, texted me and was like, this guy's full of shit. We were like, all right, so come on, we had him on after, and like, we were never trying to sell an agenda to people, which was why it's always funny how you got accused of being a liberal sometimes, I got accused of other things, and I think we were pretty, we both have our own biases, but we were objective about interviewing people. We asked hard-hitting questions, but we weren't doing like gotcha interviews.
If anything, I think the fact that we were running a quote-unquote military podcast, it scared some people away, because they thought some potential guests, because they thought we were like, some hardcore right-wing podcast, and we were never really that. But I don't know, man. I think we really pushed hard. I think, if anything, I would have liked to have had even more diverse voices. I tried to get a guy who was a fairly prominent person in Antifa to come on the podcast.
That'd be cool.
And just like put the questions to him, like, hey, what is your organization? Who are they? What do they support? And he would have come on. So,
yeah,
I tried though. I'm not opposed to having those kinds of voices, from across the spectrum.
I agree fully. Another example I can think of is during the whole Eddie Gallagher situation. Mm-hmm. You were very vocal about, not necessarily your opinion, about the views of guys that you interviewed, and just the facts of the matter based on guys that you interviewed who served with Eddie Gallagher that portrayed him in a negative light, just objectively. But then we had no problem having, for example, Jake Zwig came on and supported Eddie Gallagher, Kristen Beck came on and supported Eddie Gallagher, and Rob O'Neill. They were all fully in support of him, and we never said, you're not allowed to have this opinion.
We never said you can't say that. We didn't edit out what they thought about it.
Yeah. Most guys in the SEAL community did support Eddie Gallagher full on, from what I saw, at least of the people that I interviewed. Still to this day, I talked to Kris Paranto about it, and I wouldn't say he was necessarily in support or not in support, but the whole story about, I agree with you where you said, would all these SEALs come forth? Is there some big conspiracy that they're, as you said, like secret Hillary supporters? Because I even remember Eddie Gallagher's wife calling them like millennial crybaby SEALs, and I just said it doesn't add up to me. And I was talking to Kris about this, and he was of the opposite opinion of it. And I was like, you're allowed to have a different opinion on this. And he's like, I think a lot of these guys are, they're not tough, and they would say something about a guy like this who put them in all these missions, which is the same thing Kristen Beck said. Kristen Beck is like, I think that Eddie Gallagher ran these guys too hard. They were having too many deployments. But I agree with you. I don't think that's
one of those things where
a guy's life.
It's like you support the troops until they say something we don't like, and then they're a bunch of millennial crybabies. Fuck the troops.
I tend to agree with you.
Which is it, man? Like these are the SEALs, they're American heroes right up until the moment they say something negative about the SEAL teams, and then they're pieces of shit. Is that really how it works?
Well,
I don't know. I can't. I'm not a SEAL. I can't answer, but that's my thoughts on it.
I left before it happened, but I was writing about, and I think you agreed, I was glad to see that at least he had the trial and
Me too.
the outcome happened the way it did, as opposed to the president pardoning him.
And he was exonerated in a court of law. And
Yeah.
I was, I respect what a jury of his peers had to say. And I think that, he was found guilty on that one charge of posing with a dead body. And it seems he paid a consequence for that. But on the most dire charges, he was cleared. And I mean, look, I respect the due process behind it. And now it's time for Chief Gallagher, well, I think he's like Petty Officer Gallagher now, but whatever the case is, it's time for Mr. Gallagher to go be with his family and get back into his life,
Yeah, had he have been pardoned, I do think it would have set a dangerous precedent. So.
Yeah, very dangerous. Somebody's asking where I got the shirt. I'm wearing my Pineland shirt today.
Nice.
It says, hold on, let's see if people can see it up there. It says, visit for the beauty, stay for the oppression. Pineland. The People's Republic.
Nice.
From the Robin Sage exercise. I can't remember where I bought it. I can try to find it for you. Someone else is asking, was there ever anyone you interviewed that made you starstruck? For me, Mike Vining was definitely one of them that I could listen to him talk all day.
Yeah, I could say I was maybe a little bit with Rob O'Neill, just because, what's part of it too was you and Brandon both wrote articles that were a little bit critical of Rob O'Neill. And so when he came in the studio, it was like, is this guy going to hate us? And he ended up
I don't think I was critical of O'Neill.
You were critical of the Esquire article.
Oh, the one where it was like he's talking about I'm fucked, I'm screwed and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that article was kind of bullshit. He seems like he's doing okay. He doesn't seem like he's fucked.
I would agree with that. So you know who was actually super starstruck of Rob O'Neill, and maybe you can mention this because this also happened after I left. Rest in peace to Drew Dwyer, who was a great guy.
Oh, yeah.
I remember him, and this was so funny to me. He had a stack of books that he wanted Rob O'Neill to sign, and his hand was shaking, and he was like, hey man, do you think you could sign these for me? And I think he was totally starstruck of Rob O'Neill. And it was so funny to me because I think Drew Dwyer truly was a absolute badass, super humble about who he was. So it was so funny to me seeing a guy who was a badass, Marine, CIA contractor, get starstruck with Rob O'Neill. Because to me, they're, one and the same in terms of the personality. I think if anything, Drew is just a lot more of a low key guy. But
yeah, man, I'm glad you brought that up, but also sad. For people who don't know, I don't know what you want to say about it, but Drew passed away unexpectedly. He was younger than I am.
No, he was older than you. Drew was actually, he looked young, but he was considerably older than both of us.
How old was he?
I know he was in his 40s.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit, I thought he was younger than me.
Yeah, no, he was an older guy. He was not an older guy, but yeah, he was. I think he was actually closer to Brandon's age. They served together, but yeah, he was in his 40s. He looked very young.
Still a young guy, though.
Yeah, absolutely a young guy. He was. It's weird because most of my best friends are guys that I've known, as I've said to you, since I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
He truly was one of my best friends, and I only knew him for a couple of years, but I just. Immediately, once we started working together, we just got along with each other great. And he was such a genuine guy. I still have cards that he gave me for my birthday and for other things. And he wrote these, I never really saved cards, but I saved his because he wrote these really long, thought out things about. He was I'm so glad that I met you living here in New York, and it's an honor to work with you and all this stuff. And he always had my back. In a way that was actually really funny. I remember that when we set up the studio, we had this guy, Kirill, who is a tech wizard. He knows his shit far better than I do in terms of the technical aspect of setting up equipment. And I remember we had disagreed on the levels of where things should be. This is super technical, but if things should be in the yellow or the red, when they're going to get overmodulated. And we were just disagreeing on this a little bit, going back and forth. And I remember Drew Dwyer saying to Kirill, he was like, do you know who the fuck this guy is? He worked at Sirius XM. He's worked with Bill Bradley. He's worked with, and I'm like, dude, chill out. This guy knows his stuff. There's, we kind of need this guy right now. But I can tell you a really funny Drew Dwyer story, which we never told on air. I think I told you about this with an email. So I can tell it now. I'm not going to tell you who it involved, but
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when we were all working at the same company together, Drew got an email from someone who he didn't know who it was. This person didn't explain their background.
Somebody who worked in the company. Though.
Yeah, like a lower level.
Company, yeah.
Yeah, and emailed him and said like, "Hey, I need you to ship me this, this, and this." And Drew wrote back something that was like, "Who the fuck are you?" And the guy wrote back, and I think CC'd people in the company like, "This is completely unprofessional to address me like this."
Drew, no, it was more than that. Drew called him like an airsofter piece of shit.
That's coming. Yeah. This is originally how it was that. And this guy wrote an email. It was like, "This is completely unprofessional, blah, blah, blah." So what happened was Drew wrote back an email, and he was like, "I sent the most badass picture of me over in Afghanistan. Like I got my firearm on me, and he's like, I'm kitted up, but he's like, this is like me at my most jacked." And this person actually that he was emailing is former military. I don't believe he's former special operations or anything, and is on. And like this sounds like I'm making a joke. He's into cosplay. He's into cosplaying as like different military things. He's a really cool guy, actually. But Drew sent that picture of him next to the picture of him cosplaying as like an Army Ranger. And Drew wrote, he was like, "Sorry, bro, didn't mean to insult you. I didn't know I was talking to a fellow operator."
Oh my God.
I thought that was the funniest thing ever. I mean, it was totally disrespectful, but it was really funny. I mean, I laughed my ass off when I heard that.
Man, I could tell so many funny stories, but I probably shouldn't.
There's nothing I say. I didn't say who the person was. So.
No.
And like I said, the person was actually a really cool guy. So it's like, I don't know why these two are arguing, but did it make me laugh? It was hysterical.
It is, I mean, just over the last, 7-8 years, I mean, just the amount of like batshit crazy stories, and in some cases, batshit crazy people that I've crossed paths with, in some cases worked with, it's just like so over the top.
Yeah. The Wayne Simmons stuff, you never worked with the guy, but that
was fun. That was really funny. And there's like a big podcast, and I don't know why it hasn't been released yet, that I was interviewed for. It's like a 5-part expose on Wayne Simmons.
Yeah, when is that going to be released?
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like now is the time. I mean,
I was told that it was bought by The Intercept.
Okay.
And I have no idea why they haven't released it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, at this point, it's not timely. This happened at this point maybe 4 years ago, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those stories that when, it flew under the radar, which is the thing. So when people hear this story, a lot of people who follow you know the story already, but I think to a mainstream audience or even an audience that follows military stuff, they don't really know who Wayne Simmons is and what he did. So it'll be interesting whenever it comes out.
This is an interesting topic since you brought this up, because something like this might be happening again. There's an article came out a few days ago on NBC News. Ex-CIA spy readies to publish book about undercover exploits without agency approval. Some former CIA agents question the veracity of Life Undercover, Coming of Age in the CIA by Amaryllis Fox, which hits stores in October. So
that sounds almost like that sounds like a pen name.
I really don't know what her real name is. Apparently she's
she's
married to a Kennedy, apparently. So you might remember her because she did a video for Al Jazeera like maybe 3-4 years ago that went like viral, and she was all talking about like how everybody sees themselves as the good guy, and like how we have to like find empathy with our enemies, and like it was just like a feel good kind of video, and like everyone shared it and loved it and everything. And I remember seeing it at the time, and she wrote this memoir, and it has like all kinds of sorts of stories about her, stalking Al Qaeda and like going on solo meetings in Karachi to meet Al Qaeda people and stuff like this. And apparently she didn't put this book through PRB, the CIA's Public Review Board, which it's not like people who served in the military, even people who served in JSOC, they're supposed to send their books through DoD review. But if you don't, I mean, you saw even like Matt Bissonette, who wrote the book. He was on the Bin Laden mission. DOD did eventually go in and take the profits from the book.
Yeah.
But
and by the way, we should say Mark Owen for people who...
Mark Owen was the pen name. But, I mean, they didn't, like, charge him criminally, right? If you are a former CIA officer and you go and publish information about the CIA or about your time there without putting it through the PRB, you're going to fucking jail. Like, they do not fuck around with that at all. And you will go to prison. They will throw you in the clink. And it has happened to a decent number of people. So her book, the review copies have already gone out.
Is it on a major publisher?
Yeah, it is. It's Doubleday. So that's already violating federal law right there. And it's just a question of whether or not the thing with the CIA is it's like they look at it and they'll likely think, and DOJ will look at it, is it worth prosecuting this person and bringing all this added attention to the book? Or is it just like too much of a problem? Like, honestly, there are people former deputy directors and directors of the Central Intelligence Agency who go on television news and they say things about their time at the agency that technically those statements are illegal because they didn't go through the PRB. But the Department of Justice is never going to criminally charge them for something like that because it's just a huge shit show. It would just be a political firestorm. But back to this woman, Amaryllis Fox. I read this article and I asked a friend of mine who's a retired CIA officer, and I was like, well, what do you know about her? And he's like, yeah, the press and a lot of us, former agency people, have been sniffing around her for a long time, for years now. And he was like, here's the thing, nobody's ever heard of her.
Shit, man.
And now she could be, and she claims she was at one point non-official cover. And a non-official cover operative is somebody who works under a commercial cover rather than most CIA people pose as State Department employees or something like that. She claims that she was a knock at one point. So maybe there's a lot of people in the agency who wouldn't have heard of her because of that. But even then, people who even knew Knox, they're like, I knew guys or women who were Knox, and she wasn't one of them.
Is anyone writing about this right now, or
not yet?
Is this making you eager to do your usual investigative journalism and write a piece on this?
I don't know if I'm going to write a piece about it. I'll just say that people are poking around and people are asking questions, and from their point of view, her story's not checking out.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about this.
Doesn't check out. So I don't know what that means. It could be one of those things where she did work for the agency doing something else, and she's taking credit for other people's operations, which that happens sometimes. Or it could be that this is like totally a straight up stolen valor case. I don't know. Or it could be that she's totally legit and not everything she said is authentic. In which case, she'll be damn lucky if she stays out of federal prison.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about this. So
yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Maybe I should try to get a hold of a review copy of that book.
But if it's not officially out yet, if this really gets bad, do you think they could halt the sales of it? And
yeah,
yeah,
they could if they wanted, because they would like serve. I don't know I'm not a lawyer. I guess they would give like a cease and desist or something to the publisher.
Yeah,
and they could shut it down in that way, and criminally charge her.
And then those review copies will go on eBay for quite a bit.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. There were other guys. There was what's the other CIA officer? I'll never pronounce his name right. Kurikow, I believe he's Greek. He got put in prison for a few years for allegedly. Well, I guess they demonstrated in court, so he was convicted, not allegedly, but he was convicted of identifying covered CIA personnel, which is illegal. And even like someone like me working as a journalist, if I were to name in a newspaper or even on this live stream a covered CIA officer, that's a federal crime. You could definitely be prosecuted for that. Which is actually even more concerning because a bunch of different newspapers recently outed that Russian asset. Did you read about that?
No.
So they were talking about how in the media, well, in the intelligence community told Donald Trump, like, hey, Putin personally ordered the interference in the 2016 election. And then, of course, word of this leaked to the press, and the press started reporting it. And so now the CIA is getting nervous, apparently, according to the newspapers I've read. And they're getting nervous because they feel that this information being leaked to the public is putting their asset in Russia that they got the information from in danger. Somebody who works fairly high up, I guess, in the hierarchy in the Russian government. So they get nervous enough, they're like, we need to extract this guy. So from what it sounds like, he was on vacation. Where the hell was he? In like Monaco or something like that? And they got him and his whole family and brought him to the United States and settled him down. And the press even identified him by name and the neighborhood and the house that he was living in Washington, D.C. It's like, like you're pointing like a fucking bullseye on the back of this dude's head. Because the Russians, I mean, they kill, defectors all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it numerous times. So, I mean, yeah, that kind of stuff is concerning. And I mean, I would not want to be in that guy's shoes right now.
No.
There's somebody with a poison-tipped umbrella walking down the street, or somebody putting a fucking, polonium in his monster drink.
It's crazy shit, man.
Yeah.
Because you've always said that Wayne Simmons was not like a one-off case. There's a lot of guys out there supposed to be things that they're not. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you're like a stolen valor case, like faking, being a Navy SEAL or a Special Forces guy, like, you can call to Naval Special Warfare. You can just FOIA the Pentagon really and find out. I mean, I've done it before for stories I worked on, and find out if a guy really served in the unit, because there's like paperwork that says like, yeah, you have a Special Forces tab, you have a SEAL trident.
Yeah, I mean, Don Shipley made a whole career.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But if you're faking the funk, pretending like, oh, I was a CIA non-official cover, dude, there's nothing you can do to verify that.
Yeah, a lot of people questioned the veracity of people that we had on, and everybody we had on was legit. But for some reason, not so much the comments on the website. Comments on YouTube, if people go back, when we had, I have to refill this at some point.
My favorite,
we had Jeff Depazzi on JTF2.
Yeah.
All these comments were, this guy is not JTF2, this is stolen valor. And Drew Dwyer, for some reason, a lot of people were like, this guy wasn't in the CIA, because he came on one time and he had all these disguises from the CIA, and they were like, this looks like it was bought at Party City, and it was like, it kind of did. But I think these were like disguises you needed on the fly that were just super quick and easy. But I can tell you, both those guys are exactly who they said they were.
I'm going to say something that's going to upset people maybe, but Drew was a CIA contractor. He was. But for some reason in that book, the Surprise Kill Vanish book, and because I have a copy of it, Drew is identified in there as being a ground branch.
You know what's funny? I saw you going back and forth with the author on this, and I didn't know.
He was not in ground branch.
It's possible that was her. I don't know. She actually called me after Drew died. She was on Joe Rogan's podcast. What was her name again?
Annie Jacobson.
Yeah, Annie Jacobson. She was on Rogan's podcast. He helped her in authoring that book. Just to ask me about everything. But I don't know. I can tell you, Drew is not a guy who exaggerated his.
I can tell you this for a fact. He never said to me that he was in Ground Branch.
Yeah.
He never told me that.
Yeah.
So.
And he was advising on a few other different projects, but yeah, he never was a guy who exaggerated his service. So I don't know. It could just be a.
It could. I mean, it could be, man. I mean, you know what? I'll tell you. I'll just make a very broad comment. If you write a 500-600 page book about a subject, there are going to be some factual errors in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's human nature, especially when you're writing about agencies that are deliberately very secretive. And if I were to write a 500-page nonfiction book about the CIA, I would be as diligent as I could, but there would probably be something in there that's wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's just very hard to write about that topic and get all the facts when people are very deliberately trying to keep things secret.
Yeah, I know he was really proud of the fact that she went on Joe Rogan, was showing me the pictures of the studio. That studio looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah, dude, it's pimped out.
Yeah, he's got like a full gym in there. He's got the sensory deprivation tank there.
What?
He's got all these different things. And then Annie Jacobson, when she was on the phone with me, said that he has like a security team there that are all, this is what she said to me, like former Navy SEALs. She said he, has a lot of former Navy SEALs working with him, which makes sense. I mean, he's a super high profile guy. I do understand having a security team. I mean, especially these events he does where people run right up to him. So
that's the thing where like I'm glad that I'm like a Z-list internet famous guy. Like I do not want to be that kind of famous. I don't want to be like, people running up to me all the time and I gotta worry that somebody's gonna try to fucking shoot me or whatever.
I mean, I don't think those guys want that aspect either, but when you have a podcast that's making like millions of dollars, it's just comes with the territory, and doing UFC and I mean, he's like out and about in public, especially doing stand-up comedy. But according to her, he has, I don't think there's anything private. He's like some Navy SEALs that work with him. I mean, I know he's friends with Jocko Willink, so it doesn't surprise me.
But you got to have the Navy SEALs, right? I almost feel like it's a status thing. Like, why do you need, like, what skill set does a Navy, well, whatever, man.
That an Army Ranger doesn't have, or that?
No, it's not that. It's just that being a special operator does not translate necessarily into doing personal security. A lot of special forces guys, Rangers, etc., are just not cut out for it at all, and they can't handle it.
But a lot of them are. I mean,
some are.
So many guys that we know have done security work.
Like for clients like in the United States?
All over. I mean, I'm talking about...
I'm not talking about like Kris Paranto in Benghazi. I'm talking about you're working for a billionaire in the United States, or you're working for some celebrity.
Yeah.
And I know several people who have done jobs like that. And honestly, they get some guys who come in who are former Green Berets, and they suck.
I wonder, what do you think is the reason for that?
Ego, and failure to adapt. And they, they'll start yelling at the client, like all kinds of like crazy stories, man. Like you are in a very different environment than you were in Iraq, and some people have not wrapped their heads. They haven't transitioned yet.
But I would think anyone you'd want to hire as armed security in that fashion, you want to be either former military or former contractor, because then if you're hiring someone who you can't say for sure has ever shot someone or been shot at, you're putting them in a position where they're doing something completely new to them.
Maybe, but you get a former Navy SEAL or a former Ranger, and they may be the type of guy who thinks that they're still a Ranger in Iraq and that they can shoot first and ask questions later. It doesn't work like that here.
I mean, I would think at the very least, I'd want that guy over either a lot of police officers have never been in those type of scenarios. Or, like an NRA instructor who's great at shooting targets, right? That doesn't necessarily translate to real life.
I think overall cops are better suited for that kind of job. But, I mean, that said, there are absolutely former special operations guys who go into that kind of work and do great. I'm just saying, do not think just because a guy was a Green Beret or a SEAL that they can do that sort of work here in the United States. Some people just aren't cut out for it.
Yeah, I mean, you would know better than me, so.
My
background is...
I always say that because I've seen it, and I've had friends tell me horror stories.
By the way, do you care if I refill this real quick and you fill some time here?
No, go ahead, man.
Okay, I'm going to be right back.
Yeah, go right down the hall.
It's also because I've had a cold these past few days. I feel like I need to drink.
Yeah, and prop open the door with that piece of wood over there so you can get back in.
Oh, I need to do that? Okay.
Yeah, and
I know you'll be able to fill some time.
I'll just stare at the camera, awkward silence for a minute and a half. So yeah, thanks for sticking around. If you guys have any other questions for me or Ian, feel free to drop them in. We're just kind of BSing, reminiscing about about all the weird things that we've gotten involved in over the years. Where was my notes here? So the other thing I wanted to bring up is if you guys like this live stream, many of you have also asked me to convert it into a podcast. So I did that this week. I put it up on SoundCloud. So I'll post a link in the description, or actually I'll post one in the comments right now, the link to SoundCloud. So it's just I converted the audio from the YouTube live stream and uploaded it on there so you can listen to it as a podcast. Sorry, I'm just trying to bring it up right now. Here it is. And I will post the link up in there. People have asked me about putting it up on other platforms as well. Man, I'm only one man. I'm working as hard as I can here, but I will figure that out. I know people have asked me about iTunes and Spotify. Right now it's just up on SoundCloud, but I'll work on some of the others. The other thing I wanted to say is if you guys are enjoying these episodes so far and like what we're doing here, please consider supporting us on Patreon. I have a Patreon site up there. Right now what we're trying to do is get to about $850 a month. That's our first goal, really just so that we can become self-sustaining because, you know, we pay rent, we pay for, you know, the internet and all that other good stuff. So we just like to get to the point where we're neutral on funds. And, you know, even if you just donate $1 a month, it's really appreciated. And that $1 a month adds up. I mean, you know, a couple dozen people start doing that and the money adds up real quick. So I'm going to throw that link in there as well. So and to all of you who are already supporting us on Patreon, there's probably like 27, 28 of you. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. And that's what helps me upgrade the studio and keep the lights on here.
So that, guys, I was totally nursing this water because I needed to drink, and then I was just like, all right, at some point we need to.
That's okay. I was making some public service announcements.
Any interesting like comments or questions thus far?
Mostly people are just happy to see you, to tell you the truth. Cool. Johnny says, I thought Drew said he was a Blue Badger from old Soft Rock Radio interview. He may have been. I mean, Drew, he worked logistics for the CIA, and I believe he was in GRS for a little bit too.
I'm bad at knowing all the specifics, so you know better than me.
But I don't know if he was a Blue Badger or not. Yeah.
But all I can say is he was the furthest thing from a guy who was like boastful about who he was. At least the guy I knew was that, you know, not like that at all.
Yeah, like,
he was extremely shy at times, and the guys I talked to who served with him, like Kris Paranto, were like, Drew's the real deal. He's seen it all.
I mean, he never made any bullshit claims to me, personally. Yeah. I know there are other people out there who were upset with him over some stuff, but I mean...
There were people upset with, like, even his articles, though. They were like, you shouldn't be writing this is top secret, and it wasn't, you know. The stuff that he wrote was completely fine. He never wrote anything that was, like, classified.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, did he put it through the PRB?
I really don't remember, but I think there is just, like, dude, you get crap for stuff. I've gotten crap for stuff.
Everybody loves me.
And most of the time it's complete nonsense.
All I hear is about how great I am. I don't know what you're talking about, Ian.
Even that comment you saw on my Facebook that said Jack Murphy is an arrogant cock. For some reason, I keep everybody's comments up there. I mean, I don't know why they would like my Facebook page if they don't like me, but for some reason there are people who listen to what we did and either didn't like me or didn't like you. I would always see those comments that were, you know, there were always these reviews.
Well, you know,
Jack Murphy is arrogant. Ian Scotto has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Why is he here? You're like, I always say, and you really can't let it get to you doing what you do.
Because I mean, you can't make everyone happy, and why would you want to?
Yeah.
Like, you're just a pushover piece of shit if you're running around trying to make everyone happy. It's impossible to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's like that famous quote of, I don't know who said it, I don't think it's attributed to anybody, where it was like, but if you don't want to upset anybody, and I'm paraphrasing, it's like, don't, say nothing, do nothing, stand for nothing.
Yeah, just shut up and go with the flow.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you do what we do, I mean, you can't beat that person. So.
Yeah.
So fuck it, I thrive on your hatred.
Yeah, I early on I had to not let that bother me. You can't. Sorry if my voice is cracking here. As I said, getting over a cold. This is the first day I feel.
Anthony asks how a JTAC would fit into the security world. I mean, a JTAC, they're the guys, the Joint Terminal Attack Controllers. They call aircraft to drop bombs, essentially. So there's not like necessarily a civilian equivalent of a JTAC. But I mean, a professional soldier is a professional soldier. So I mean, perhaps they can transition over to the security world. I don't see why not. Provided, they're mature and they're professional, just like anyone else. What types of mission are SOF doing in Afghanistan right now? Man, they just, like another big clearing operation just popped off, I think where was it? Was it in Kunar? Hold on, I'll tell you.
Which, by the way, speaking of Afghanistan, it's one thing we haven't hit on yet. John Bolton out, and also the discrepancy over was he fired or did he resign?
Bandar area in Achin district, big paramilitary operation, counter ISIS mission in Afghanistan, and I guess that's going on right now. But I imagine, there's soft support for that. But John Bolton, Mr. Mustache, he's out.
Yep.
Hey man, the administration is just grinding through souls.
Well, I'm glad to see him out, but the story was really funny though. If you believe this is John Bolton's side of the story, was that he said to Trump the night before,
he offered to resign.
That he offered to resign, and Trump basically said, "Let's talk about this tomorrow morning."
And tweeted like, "Now you're fired."
Yeah.
That's like such a Trump thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's hilarious. Yeah. I just wonder who's going to replace him. I mean, the difference between him and Mattis is it's a totally different philosophy. So, I don't know who's going to replace him. He was just extremely pro-war with Iran. That a lot of Trump voters will say they voted for him because they thought he was going to be the opposite of that. He was going to be the opposite of the status quo Republican Party.
I don't understand really why Trump hired him, other than the only other thing I can really imagine is that, Trump is the kind of guy, like, he uses people to gain publicity for himself, and then once he kind of like burns out on that, he just kind of like discards them and gets rid of them and moves on to the next person.
The only thing I can think of is we all know Trump watches and loves Fox News, and he's like a Fox News guy, as was KT McFarland.
Maybe the Israeli aspect played in, but it's Bolton. Yeah.
I just think he hires people who are like contributors on Fox News. Like, I think he watches Fox and Friends, and I think he's like, I like this guy. With people that we've had on our show we were doing, like Tony Tata, General AJ Tata, like he tweets things that he said, retweets his stuff, and I think like his favorite people are people who appear on Fox News, regardless of what their philosophy is.
Yeah, he's a reality TV president, right?
Yeah.
So he sees people on Fox. Oh, that guy's kind of smart.
Yeah, he rarely hires anybody that those in like the news media loop aren't aware of. Like we know these names usually. We knew. I'm thinking of the guy who's working with Russia, with RT, General, I'm forgetting.
Talking about Mike Flynn?
Yeah, Mike Flynn is a guy that we knew in the public sphere. All these people, he doesn't really hire people that are a question mark of like, who is this guy?
Yeah, I think that's probably a product of him having a reality TV background, right?
Yeah.
Assemble your team. So you flip on.
I'm a rose sword for the administration. Yeah, it's totally reality TV.
Yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, I do wonder.
8 years, Ian. 8 years.
I do think he's going to get another term. Absolutely.
I think so too.
And I will say, especially for people who say I'm a liberal or something somehow, I will probably vote for him. And it's not because I support the man really. It's because I see what the option is on the other side, and them having to kowtow to everything that the left loves. And I'm seeing the things. I don't think he's going to win by any means, but the things Beto O'Rourke is saying is literally all the things that they say gun owners are paranoid about. It's like we're going to go door to door and take away your AR-15s, and now he recently said that he thinks credit card companies should stop doing business with. It should stop allowing basically people to purchase what he calls assault weapons with a credit card. He's saying that they're responsible for it, which is absolutely insane to say that the credit card companies are responsible. So the credit card companies are responsible when you die of alcoholism if you bought alcohol with a credit card. The logic is insane.
But it's coming. It's the way corporations are like virtue signaling. Like it's coming. I mean, the big banks and everything are going to say, "Oh yeah, we're not going to let you use our cards to buy guns." Or if you have a bank account here and you buy a gun, we're kicking you out. We're closing your account down.
Yeah. So I mean, if I vote for Trump, which I think I will, it's strictly to fight against that. I mean, we've had this debate before about Supreme Court justices and if they should be objective, and if there are right-wing and left-wing Supreme Court justices. I mean, I personally would see, and I think we are going to end up replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just inevitable during the next term.
Yeah, during Trump's second term, yeah.
If it's Trump's second, and my point is, I would rather see a Supreme Court justice that's like another Brett Kavanaugh to a Sonia Sotomayor. So I would be voting strictly for those type of reasons.
You're not the only person I know who has described it to me like that they were like, I don't like Trump, but I don't want a president that's going to try to take my guns.
Yeah, and it's not even the president; it's the Supreme Court.
But that leading to that who gets to appoint the Supreme Court justice was like a huge factor in why they voted for Trump over Hillary.
Yeah,
and now you got Bernie out there who's just like total burnout. He's like, that thing you wanted? When I'm president, you'll have it for free.
Did you see
Bernie? Really?
Did you see the last CNN? I don't know if it was not, you'd call it a debate because it was all of them speaking one-on-one with the moderator. Did you see Bernie Sanders during that with the population control question? That was the craziest thing.
No, what did he say?
You could find it. Like, you're going to think this is me exaggerating. It was a climate change town hall that they did.
I remember that.
Yeah, and some woman said that we're going to have to start looking into population control to combat climate change.
Eugenics.
And and I don't think Bernie understood the question because they asked, she was like, isn't this a reasonable thing to ask a presidential candidate that we need to start controlling the population? And Bernie's response was, he was like, absolutely, I agree, and it should always, this is what he said, which has nothing to do with the question. He was like, it should be a woman's right to choose at any time if she wants to have an abortion, which is really the complete opposite of, let's say, China's one-child policy. If you're for abortion, it's elective abortion. Yes. It's not the government telling you have an abortion. And the crowd clapped at this, which to me showed that, and I'm sure it's the same with Republicans, does not be shown my bias because they have their own things where they would clap for. But I think in front of a Democrat audience, if you say the words like right to choose, it's a women's body, their decision, like they will clap. But it had nothing to do with the question. And he was agreeing that we need to start doing something about population control. And it was like, honestly, straight out of Nazi Germany. And I hate to use the Nazi analogy. But
or China's Great Leap Forward and the one-child policy or all of that stuff.
But to his defense, I kind of got the feeling he didn't understand the question, which is also very troubling.
I mean, I thought this was pretty funny, this tweet that Lily Lynch put out. She said, this is why I'm so skeptical of leftists in the U.S. who say they want a leftist foreign policy. What does that mean? Raytheon drones dropping leaflets about liberal feminism and the U.S. Embassy mandated pride parades on Kyrgyzstan and then cluster bombing them away? I mean, it's true. It's like, what in the world... I don't know. I don't get it, man.
I mean, yes. It's weird to say, though. What is a left-wing and right-wing foreign policy? I mean, is Tulsi Gabbard's foreign policy a left-wing foreign policy? It kind of echoes Ron Paul, who was a Republican, so...
Yeah, it's what we were talking about at the beginning of the stream. It's like, these are the unacceptable candidates. I mean, as things stand now, I would probably vote for Yang. I'm not a fan of this whole, like, universal basic income. Just because, I mean, we both know these people. There are people out there who are hurting, and I don't have a problem with like some government programs for like a woman, like a single woman with 3 kids. Like, okay, yeah, cool, I get it. But like, we all know these people who will just like, who are like my age or your age, and they don't have kids, they don't have a wife, they're living in their mom's basement, and they're just gonna sit down there and play fucking video games all day with Yang's universal basic income to buy ramen noodles instead of going and getting a job.
Or healthcare, or using that towards healthcare. $1,000 will pay for healthcare a month in most places,
That would be my problem with it. But overall,
what do you? Because I think he seems like a likable guy, but I don't like his policies at all. I mean, what do you like about the guy?
I think that he's forward thinking. He's thinking about what's coming in the future, whereas pretty much all of the other candidates, I mean, Trump, Bernie, like they want to go back to the past. Like Bernie wants to take us back to the USSR, and Trump wants to take us back to like leave it to Beaver 1950s America with a white picket fence. And it's like, you know, make America great again. The jobs are coming back. Like, no, bro, they're not.
Yeah.
Like the coal jobs are not coming back. The car jobs are not coming back to Detroit. Yang is actually thinking like, hey man, what jobs can we get? Like what new industries can we sink into?
Yeah, I agree with that. Although it's another thing with him, I guess, is that the automation stuff that he's very against. I mean, a lot of it is just absolutely inevitable.
I don't think he's against it. I think he just understands it's coming, whether we like it or not.
That's true.
And we need to have a plan. We need to adapt to it because we're going to have a lot of unemployed Americans.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. It is fantasy to say that, you know, people who are working jobs that are going to be obsolete could retrain and learn new skills, because a lot of these people are in their 50s or their 60s.
Stop.
What are they going to, you know, go back to class and then compete with people who are in their late teens and 20s who have already been training for these jobs? It's just unrealistic.
You remember we talked about this on the podcast one time when I brought up long haul truckers.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's going to get automated, you know? And it sucks because a lot of our listeners are long haul truckers, you know?
How far in the future is that, though, do you think? Because
it could be done now. It could be done right now. But I think that realistically, because there are like, you know, obviously the industry is going to fight back, kind of like you saw like with Uber, the taxi industry fighting against it. I think realistically 10 to 20 years.
How could it be done now that you could have an automated?
Because we have all the technology already. It already exists.
To have an automated long haul car going across state lines, I mean.
The technology's there, man. Our airplanes fly on autopilot like fucking 95% of the time. Yeah. Like those, the same thing with ships.
That would be crazy though. Like, would you be ready to get in a plane with no pilot?
Actually, I kind of would. And I'll tell you why. Because you have these incidents of pilots who are like depressed and they want to take the whole fucking plane with them.
Extremely rare. Let's not be alarmist. So.
Well, I mean, there was the one in Europe where I think it was a German pilot flew the whole plane into a mountain, and then there's the Malaysian airline that went down. It crossed. It was going into the South China Sea, crossed back over Malaysia, went into the Indian Ocean, and the guy, I was reading this like long article in the Atlantic about it. The dude, they think he like at one point accelerated the aircraft and gained altitude very quickly, and they couldn't. And it doesn't make sense why he did that. But then I think what he was doing at that moment was depressurizing the cabin, so everyone in the back went hypoxic and suffocated to death. Because when you're pulling up, it forces the oxygen out of the aircraft faster.
Yeah.
And then he just flew until he ran out of gas and plunged into the water. So,
but extremely, extremely rare.
So the drones are not that bad. And I was talking to a friend of mine, he was saying, he's like, you know how you fly in an airplane and like maybe 1 out of 10 flights, you kind of have like a hard landing, like the plane really comes down like.
Sure.
He's like, that's when the pilot is actually piloting the plane. And they say they have to pilot it themselves so that they get practice in case they have to do an emergency landing. He's like, that's the pilot flying. All the other times it's autopilot.
It's pretty crazy. I thought it was just, you know, the symptom of the weather.
I mean, this is what I was told. I mean, maybe I should talk to an actual airline pilot about that. But I mean, these things, the technologies are already there. So it's the human beings who are resistant to it. Like you said, like I don't want to get into an airplane with a drone.
Yeah, I'd be reluctant to that. Yeah. But no, I will say he seems like a very smart guy. Look, I think most of the Democratic candidates are probably more intelligent than Donald Trump, but that's not a factor of why I would vote for them. You know, like I think if you're intelligent but want to have more intrusion into our lives, that's a problem. But then again, Donald Trump is not exactly the most libertarian guy himself, because we now see that he's going to try to...
he's going to take your e-cigs.
Yeah, going against vaping, because Melania doesn't like it. Did you see that thing where he said Melania has a young son?
It was like, what?
Yeah, but he made it sound like he's not the father of the son.
It was
really weird.
It was really weird.
Yeah, it was like, he goes, she has a young son together. That was the words. He didn't say, like, we have a young son together.
Yeah, do you think she walked into the bedroom in the White House, or no? The son lives in Trump Tower, right? So you think she walked in and found Barron like puffing on, like vaping on the douche flute,
or he's been talking about other
like
things,
like watermelon vaping. So then like
who knows?
So then like word comes back around to Donald, and he's like, "That's it.
I will say this, and this is probably going to be considered a controversial statement, and I'm not saying this to be a controversial or a negative thing. I think it seems very, I would actually say obvious that Barron probably has some form of autism. I think there's a reason we've never seen him in front of the camera. The times we've seen him in front of the camera, he's very awkward. Trump is very into his kids being in front of the camera, talking, defending him, saying something. And he has, like Chelsea Clinton, we heard talk all the time, who's about Barron's age. So I think he's like embarrassed to put Barron out there. And I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I just think it's kind of right. Am I crazy, or
that it's weird that he wants his kids in front of the camera?
No, that I think it's very likely that Barron has some form of autism.
I'm hesitant to say what I know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. We don't see the kids saying. I know in comparison to the amount of camera time Chelsea Clinton got compared to Barron, it's kind of strange. And Trump is not a guy who doesn't like his kids in front of the camera saying things. And I'm not saying it as a negative thing. I just think it's very likely. You know?
I kind of do know from somebody I've talked to who's close to this. I'll just say Barron goes to a special school, and he's a good kid.
Which, by the way,
leave it at that.
Yeah, and which, by the way, could be used as a great thing to talk about autism awareness and things that he could do. If that's the case, I don't know.
But he's, it's just he's a young kid, and he deserves his privacy.
I would agree with that as well. Absolutely.
Johnny asks if I read the Military Times article about DoD taking over paramilitary operations from the CIA. I saw something in I think Small Wars Journal about it, but it was just like aspirational, like this is why they should do that. I kind of disagree with that notion myself. There's a professor, Anthony says there's a professor at my university that has mentioned how he's currently working with China on technology security. What are your thoughts on that? Sketchy? Hell yeah. I mean, anything, the Chinese are stealing everything that's not bolted to the ground. So, I know people whose parents pay $72,000 for them to come to GU, George Washington University, so they can play video games all day and watch YouTube during class. There's always bad apples.
There's a lot of universities like that. I knew people who went to Lynn University in Boca Raton, and if you've been to Boca Raton, Florida, it is like the nicest area.
Yeah, I've never been there.
I would love to live there. I love Florida, as you know. Boca is amazing, but it's like this super expensive university with like golf courses. It is beautiful. But like pretty much anybody can get in there. It doesn't matter what your grades are, just as long as you can pay the money.
Oh, as long as you can pay.
Yeah, there's a lot of those universities.
Yeah, there are.
Really like the most beautiful place in the world. But yeah. I love South Florida. Just throwing that out there. If anybody lives in South Florida, it's awesome.
Ian says 5 years tops for long haul truckers to be where Uber was 3 years ago.
You said Ian says?
Ian, not you, but Ian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, I would think it's going to be very long, but I'm not so read up on it, but it just seems crazy to me. It's one of the biggest jobs in America.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's so crazy that would be obsolete.
It's coming, man. The meteor's coming. Hey guys, Kimsey099 from Soft Rep Days. What's up? Have you guys seen the stuff about the California MET teams from the Game Wardens?
I don't
know what he's talking about there. If you have like a news link or something to it, please throw it in the comments so we can read it and other people watching can read it.
Cool. I'm glad people are enjoying this. It's so funny because this always happens with us. We have nothing prepared and we can talk for like hours on end. I have realized that natural chemistry you and I have, it is very hard to come by, man.
Yeah, I mean it's a combination of like things that you're interested in, some people, I consider myself to be like somebody who's more introverted and doesn't really like to talk, but we start bullshitting.
I'm exactly the same, and I think one of the things that made our show great was that, because I don't think either of us tried to be the star and had to like filibuster a whole conversation.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned that to people. There were interviews where you were on a complete roll, and I was like, I'm not going to interrupt this. This is going great. Like the Mike Vine interviews, that was 90% you. There were a few other interviews where I definitely talked more than you, and you kind of sat back. And I think a lot of people in media have a problem doing that because they're, as you said, more extroverted. They need to get that time, and neither of us cared as long as the interview went well and as long as the discussion was good.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, I'm somewhat like uncomfortable being the star. Like, I don't necessarily want all the limelight. And I mean, there are things I'm interested in and that I like to talk about. I'm even thinking, and you guys can tell me in the comments what you think. I'm thinking about doing some like long form deep dives on some of the like special forces history stuff I've written about over the years.
That'd be cool.
And I don't know if people would be interested in seeing that as a live stream or a podcast where I do kind of do like the Dan Carlin thing and just kind of like walk through the entire sweep of it. But if that's something you're interested in, let me know.
It's a cool idea. With these interviews, though, I think it's more important to be just a great listener than to have to get your points across. I do notice that with Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, even like Larry King, they were able to like not make the interview about them.
Yeah.
Just listen and have the person feel comfortable, and that's why they were able to get into everything.
Absolutely.
When you think of when we had Dale Comstock on, like the fact that he was open to talking about the things that he was like insane, But I think we made him comfortable. We knew he wasn't gonna be taken out of context.
I love Dale. I sometimes wish that he made different decisions, but I love him. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Is he doing all right? I mean, I know he's got a thing with his current wife or girlfriend.
I think he's doing okay. I should reach out to him and say hello, see what he's up to.
But there's like the government isn't after him, right? For as long as that's the case.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, ITARS, which governs some of that stuff. I mean, there's also laws about acting as a mercenary, but also ITARS covers like military training and things like that. It's very hard to prosecute ITARS. It doesn't happen that often unless somebody gets caught red-handed doing something like exporting night vision or weapons from the United States overseas. Not too many of those cases end up getting prosecuted. And even then, the end user agreements get forged. I don't know. There's a whole shit show there.
Yeah, but every time I've talked to that guy, I like him. He's a great dude. So
the guy, the MET teams were marijuana enforcement teams who's saying that the guy wrote a book called Hidden Wars, and he was just on, I think that's Joe Rogan and Mike Ritland's podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I don't know anything about it. Maybe he'd be a cool guy to reach out to.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Ian's glasses.
Should I take them off?
Ian's glasses and watch got him looking like a spokes guy for GQ.
The glasses are Oakley. This is a older Movado. My current one is getting fixed.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've always
some bling.
I guess, yeah. My grandpa always rocked a Movado. He was like an old school Italian dude. So I think that's why I have his old Movado. So I think that's why I like them. But yeah, this is like an older one. But I guess that's a compliment. Thank you. Yeah, these are Oakley eyeglasses. I think they're going to tell me to take them off because maybe like the reflection or something. But
no, man, I'm looking at the feed here so I can see the comments, and I mean, it looks pretty good.
Cool.
I need to work on the camera stuff. The camera work a little bit because like Ian or Dave, when he's sitting there, always looks bigger than I do on screen. So I gotta like adjust it so we look about the same.
Well, technically, when the budget is there, you gotta have just a camera guy.
Technically, yeah. When the budget is there should be a producer who can switch between camera angles, and then it'll look very dynamic and very cool. Okay, guys. So it's been almost an hour and a half. So I guess we'll start wrapping up.
We're not doing the 5 hour.
We're not doing 5 hours. We'll start wrapping up. We'll go a few more minutes. If you guys have any other questions or comments, bitches, gripes, complaints.
I was. It's funny. I was looking back at my phone and seeing if there was anything that I forgot. But I think we covered everything that I thought to cover. I mean, I mentioned the 9/11 stuff. I don't know if there was anything you wanted to talk about with where you were. You've said it before.
I have, and I wrote about it in my book. And actually, since we're here, I'll do a little promo for my...
On the 18th anniversary, the day after. I mean, it really is just so crazy. And I know to this audience means a lot, and to anybody who's served like you means a lot, but also just us as New Yorkers, we experienced it pretty much up close and personal, even though I wasn't there, you know, but...
So, yeah, I mean, there's my book. I wrote about, 9/11, my senior year of high school. And, you can pick up the book if you're interested. So I was in computer class, and Mr. Gear walks in, same experience you had. Oh, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. I don't want to alarm anyone. We all thought exactly the same thing, some sort of accident. And then we find out the second plane hit. It's like, holy shit. And I just remember it was like, kind of like shocked, like a sort of shocked pandemonium. I remember going into school, like all the parents were coming to pick up their kids early. People were scared. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. But I mean, what do you feel about like 9/11 today and like 2019? Not about 9/11 the event, but like I see like the whole week leading up to 9/11 and even the subsequent days after. There's like all the like. It's not just a tribute or a memorial, I can understand, but it almost goes into like nostalgia, where people are like, they look back on this as a time that like we all had this thing in common and it unified us. And I get it kind of creeps me out a little bit, to tell you the truth. And I really admire the firefighters who, ran into the building as everyone was trying to get out. And start running up the steps. All those FDNY guys are heroes to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely appropriate to remember, the people who died in the World Trade Center, in the Pentagon, and what was it, Flight 97? Flight 98?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. But died in the field in Pennsylvania where the plane went down. But someone else put their finger on it for me. They said, what I get kind of creeped out, I think, about all the like 9/11 stuff, the sort of nostalgia and all the memes and everything around it, is that I feel like all these people are telling me how I'm supposed to feel about 9/11. And I resent that.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have our own personal experience.
93, Flight 93, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just posted something, like I said, reflecting on my experience. I do know someone who was lost that day in the towers, and the crazy thing to me that I was thinking about is I was looking at how old he was, and I always thought of him as an older guy, and like I was looking at his age again yesterday, and he died at 44. It's like, wow, it's super young. So I don't know. I mean, I think everybody's going to have their own way that they feel about it. The nostalgia is kind of crazy, the whole idea that this is what brought us together.
Right.
But I get certain moments, I do understand how people get like goosebumps watching that Bush speech at Ground Zero.
Or the pictures. And also, like, I feel like it gets rubbed in our face. It's like, I don't need all 3,000 of my friends on Facebook to post pictures of people jumping off the buildings at the World Trade Center. Like, it's not necessary. And I get it, never forget. Like, buddy, I'm not forgetting. Like, we were in high school when it happened. I joined the Army the next year after it happened. I can see the Freedom Tower from my apartment building. Like, I don't need your pictures of people jumping off the World Trade Center every year on 9/11 to like tell me or remind me. Like, I get it, man.
I guess to take the other side of that to some extent is the fact that everyone who's in school now was not around when that happened.
Yeah, they have no idea.
So like every now and again I meet someone who's 18 or 19 and they were not alive when this happened, and that's crazy
weird
to me. I mean, technically 19, they were one, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these young people, they didn't experience it. Even actually taking the personal training class I was in, there were people in that class who were like 22, 23, they didn't experience it. And these are, I mean, at this point, grown adults. So I think it is important that we explain to them what happened.
For sure.
Don't whitewash it.
Absolutely.
And to some extent, I think it's important too, because you look at now, I remember being taught like the Holocaust in high school. I remember meeting Holocaust survivors. most of those people are no longer with us. A friend of mine, Avery, who's a teacher, who's also like Ashkenazi Jewish, had family members who were in the Holocaust, was saying like, we don't teach the Holocaust anymore. And it was kind of how,
Really?
That's what he said to me. Yeah, it was like kind of outrageous to him. And,
this is in Long Island?
No. He's actually teaching in Colorado now. But, I don't know if he said that they don't teach it or that it gets glanced over super quick. I don't know. But I think maybe the fears of that too, of that,
it disappears.
20 years from now.
Disappears from memory.
Yeah, or that even the phrase Islamic terrorism, people are very uncomfortable with now and saying what it was, so.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's like finding that balance. You definitely don't want to whitewash it from history.
Yeah.
And especially on what you were saying, there are kids who have no memory of it happening.
And if you leave it to the media, from what I've they do not accurately say they do have a problem with that phrase Islamic terrorism, and they equate it to
what did it say?
There was a whole thing, I hate the fact that it gets so politicized, but on Twitter there was a whole thing equating the people who took down the Trade Center to white supremacists, and that we have a white supremacist problem in this country.
That's an interesting flex.
Yeah, and it's like, I think if you leave it to these people in the media, they have a huge problem with directly saying what happened. And I think you should say what happened no matter what it was. Like, I have no problem calling a white supremacist terrorist attack a white supremacist terrorist attack, and I have no problem calling 9/11 Islamic terrorism.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, to fix the problem, you have to identify what it is.
Yeah, I don't think we should have a problem with either of those phrases.
Yeah.
So,
One guy, Randy's asking any idea when the next Promise book will come out, which is a series of short stories I wrote about a dude who's like a mercenary. Like the first one is about him being in Mac V Sag in Vietnam, and then he's in Rhodesia, and then he's in South Africa, and then if I get around to writing the fourth one, it'll be in Beirut. And I would love to write that. I would love to get back to that series, but I'm writing the 5th Deckard novel right now, so that's the next project. Spartan 99 asks, when did your daughter start playing D&D with you? That was a cool post you did about the Kraken. We started playing like 2 years ago, so she would have been 6. Wow. Yeah.
Does anyone her age play D&D?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know it was.
Yeah, man. I mean, now it's like a thing. Like whole families play it together and stuff.
It's so funny because I am completely not into that culture. I know nothing about it.
I told you the lifestyle chooses you. You don't choose it. No, you should come and play with us sometime.
I've watched you play it. I don't know. I don't think this is my thing.
I think you would get into it actually. I think
really don't.
I think your anxiety would get to you because the tension would get ratcheted up.
Maybe. I think that my gaming.
What's around the next corridor? I don't know.
Like the extent of my gaming is like Mario Kart 64, and I still play Mario Golf 64. It's all Nintendo 64. But
Mike asks, did you see the Reuters article talking that Trump believes Israeli intel is not operating in the U.S.? No, I didn't see that. That is ridiculous.
He says so many outrageous things though, where you just wonder, like, doesn't keep up on anything.
What planet is he on?
Yeah.
Do you know where you are right now, sir?
I mean, we do know that every day he gets his news from, Fox and Friends, which is so weird for the president. And like he calls the Fox News desk to talk about like what they're saying to him and reporting on. I saw it. I have no problem saying it because we're gonna put it out soon, the Parnell thing. But we talked to, why am I forgetting his name right now? Pete Hegseth. And, Pete Hegseth was being considered for PA secretary. And he does a while back. And Pete Hegseth does a really good Trump impression. But that he watches Fox and Friends every day because Pete Hegseth was like a Cruz supporter. And he said that the minute he walked into like the Oval Office or was Trump Tower, either of those to meet with Trump looked at him, and I can't do the Trump voice like him. But he was like, you were very unfair to me early on. I didn't like you, but you've been very fair to me now. Like, so he keeps up with what all these guys are saying, which is just very weird for the president. I don't see Barack Obama watching any of these news stations on a daily basis.
No, but they did
bring in much bigger information than we are.
They did make decisions based on like polling, though.
Oh, every president does that. But I don't think Obama religiously watched
No.
any news station the way that Trump watches Fox News.
Dude, once I'm president, like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, dude, network news, like, people, like, the only people who watch televised news are, like, the average age is, like, 75. I mean, good
Yeah.
Lord. It's, like, nursing home and, like, VA clinics. I mean, that's the only place people watch Fox News.
Although Trump is now saying, did you see the whole thing where he said Fox News is not for us anymore?
Yeah.
Because I think, he wants something more extreme, like that One American News Network, where it's just like all Trump all the time,
Well,
and he's the Messiah.
Well, you know what he's also setting up? Like, he didn't think he was going to get elected. He was planning to start Trump TV.
Yeah, and it would be like Tommy Lahren.
That was the next venture. So, I mean, he might be trying to set that up, for his next thing.
He does talk a lot to that One American News Network. And I mean, like, there are people on Fox News who are by no means supporters of the president, who are critical of him, and that's their job. As Neil Cavuto even said it himself. He's like, I call it as I see it, because he responded to that. He's like, I don't work for you. I don't work for the administration. My job is to talk about the news, and we're going to praise you if you do something we think is good, and we're going to criticize you if you do something that we see as wrong. Dana Perino is very open that she's not a Trump supporter. I mean, she worked for the Bush administration. That's pretty much more in line with her philosophy. Shepard Smith is definitely not a huge Trump supporter. He's pretty open about it. Brett Baer is pretty objective, I would say. Like, not everybody on the network is Sean Hannity. But
What about Tucker?
I think Tucker seems very libertarian, but he seems to support the president on a lot of things. But that One American News Network, who he's granted a lot of interviews to, they worship the president.
They're like the QAnon people?
Yeah, they love it, man. That's what it is. So I think he wants a network like that.
Trump is also he's also the kind of guy, like, if you like me and you say I'm a great guy, then I think you're a great guy.
Yeah.
But the second you say, like, Jack Murphy, Ian Scotto, real bad guy, real piece of trash. He came to me for help. He came to me for help all the time. Real scumbag. Ian, real scumbag. Really.
I mean, look at Steve Bannon. Like, Breitbart was totally in the favor of Trump, and then the minute Steve was opposing him, he was on Trump. He was on Twitter going sloppy Steve Bannon. That was his name for him, which was a hilarious name, sloppy Steve Bannon, because his appearance does look very sloppy. And I do wonder what his name is going to be for whoever these people. I was going to say for whoever wins the nomination. We know it'll be Pocahontas if it's Elizabeth Warren, but is he going to have a name for all these people?
Probably.
Yeah, I think they're just not on his radar. He's not going to say anything about Andrew Yang because he's not going to get. I did like when he said Pete. He was like, Pete Boot Edge. What the hell kind of a name is this? He's hilarious. That's one of the things he said. Did you see the Simpsons thing criticizing Trump?
No.
It was so unfunny, man.
Really?
I feel like the Simpsons they jumped the shark years ago.
There's so much material with this administration. I mean, how can it be bad?
Because it was so trying to be woke type of thing.
Really?
Yeah, it was. You have to see it. I'm sure people watching this have seen it. But it was like Trump at the Oval Office saying, I need a distraction. And then he brings in Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. And they're like, we're more American than your wife. It was just very blatantly.
Ham-handed.
Yeah, but its biggest issue was it wasn't funny. I think The Simpsons just hasn't been funny in a really long time.
That's sad.
And South Park, to me, has always been the total opposite, where they just truly do not give a shit who they offend. I mean, they had Caitlyn Jenner running over people in her car, making fun of the fact that, Bruce Jenner killed someone in a car accident, while he's transitioning. That's as below the belt as it gets, and that's...
I don't watch South Park regularly, man, but the ones I see are funny. Like, I remember the one where Tom Cruise locks himself in the closet.
Yeah.
They spend a whole episodes like, Tom Cruise, everyone here loves and respects you, but will you please come out of the closet?
I'm looking forward to it when they have a new season because there's so much stuff to talk about. I mean, I would think they'll talk about Jeffrey Epstein and all that stuff. I hope they do.
Let's see. Nolan says he took my book recommendation to read Three Sips of Gin by Tim Bax.
Yeah, I remember that.
He read it.
South African.
Great book. Yeah, he was a Selous scout. He was Rhodesian, not South African.
Oh, okay, that's right.
But yeah, great book. You should go find it. Jared asks what my favorite D&D character is. Honestly, like I'm always the DM, so like I only get to play once in a while.
The DM. It
Yeah.
sounds so S&M.
BDSM.
BDSM, S&M is the Metallica. Yeah, BDSM. Clearly, I'm not into that culture, guys.
Do you play any video games? You used to like Hitman. Dude, I brought it up a bunch of times. Like I still have not beaten that Tomb Raider game, the last one. Like I don't play many video games. Like maybe one. A game.
I didn't know that they were still making Tomb Raider.
Yeah. It's good. I'm actually at the very end of it. I have to finish it. Yeah. Someone else saying the only cartoon that does it right is South Park because they don't have sides.
Yeah, they really don't. They just don't give a shit. I mean, they Christopher Reeve eating fetuses, talking about stem cell research. Like they push the envelope so much, and at this point, they're one of those shows that truly have, like Trey Parker truly has like the phrase "fuck you money." If Comedy Central wants to drop them, they don't give a shit. I mean, they're making tons of money off Book of Mormon. They don't really care. That's why I think Chappelle is able to do what he does. Like if Netflix drops him, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's made a ton doing what he's doing. So I think once you reach a certain point and you're secure financially, you have the freedom to do whatever you want artistically.
At least I think, the people who are genuine look at it that way. There are always those people who are just like looking to cash in perpetually.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think you're right. Somebody like Chappelle, he's like, man, he probably looks at it like, I do comedy. This is what I do.
Dude, have you seen that guy Tim Dillon who does Meghan McCain?
No.
I have to show you that. It is, she blocked him on Twitter, but it is extremely offensive. I mean, if you don't like offensive comedy, don't watch Tim Dillon, but he does like the most just outrageous Meghan McCain impersonation.
Really?
It's hysterical.
When she's like on The View and all that?
Yeah, but it's so over the top. I'll show you once we're done with this.
All right.
If you guys want to look it up, but I mean, if you're someone easily offended, do not watch this.
All right, my man.
Is that it? We're calling it.
I mean, unless you got anything else.
No, I have nothing to plug other than my Twitter at Ian Scotto, Facebook.com/Ian Scotto Radio. I do voiceover work, IanScotto.com. Our friend Kris set up that website for me.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm working on some new projects that we'll see. Maybe we'll do something.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'll just throw out there again, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon so you can get notified when we go live next time. We still haven't locked in like an actual schedule, like, hey, we're going to go live every Thursday at 7, for instance.
Yeah, we should.
But I should figure that out.
Whenever you and Dave could do it.
Yeah.
That's cool that he's able to do this as regularly as
he's local, so it works out really well. And also, please hit us up on Patreon if you want to support us financially. You can chip in as little as $1 a month. And like I said, that adds up to a decent amount of money when you get a lot of listeners, throwing 100 cents into our tip jar. It's great. And that helps us upgrade the studio and keep everything running here. We really appreciate all you guys who are already doing that. So thanks, man. And thanks, Ian, for coming in today.
No problem. Thanks for checking it out to the audience.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. And I mean, there were a lot
of time flew by. We've been here 2 hours.
Dude, there have been like 36, 37, 38 people watching this live at any time.
And then once it goes up,
and then it'll be up on YouTube and people keep watching it. So it's awesome.
I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments of people that I offended at some point. So.
Dolan subscribe. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. So yeah, I guess that's it for tonight. And I'll have Ian come back in again sometime soon, man. We have plenty more to talk about.
Hell yeah. Now I just want to see what Andrew Yang wore to these debates. That's what I'm going to look for right now.
All right. I'm going to go around here and switch the stream off. But thanks again, everyone who tuned in.
Guys.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.